I love what you just said because you're diving into the deep end. And like, this is the stuff that this industry needs to talk about. Yeah. So what you just said, nailed it, bro. Here's my thought on it real quick. You touched on something that I think in this industry we're scared to talk about, and that's acquisition and subsequently holding on to talent, right? So there's a lot of people, everyone thinks they're a chef nowadays because they watch a Netflix special and they're like, nailed it. To do the work that chefs do is mentally and physically grueling. So what are we doing as owners to attract these people and then help them grow? When I started, my first restaurant was last year. And so I was, scared out of my mind, first of all. There's the vulnerability side of it, right? Like, I did Farmer's Dinner for 7 years at that time, 8 now. But Farmer's Dinner isn't a restaurant. We're a pop-up. So I knew from the beginning that I wanted to make sure that we took our staff to farms so that they could connect. I wanted to make sure that I could be a good boss. And did I nail that? No. There was times where I could have done a lot more. Yeah. And I didn't hold myself to the standard of where Himmel is. He's been doing this a while. But at the same point, I looked at people like Chris and I said, there's where I want to be. I certainly made mistakes in the process, but I cared every step of the way. And I think that that's where we have to start talking about, taking and allocating money for benefits. For these people, we need to talk about, giving them a lifestyle that supports them and really encourages their growth. Because my view of being an owner is my job is whoever the chef is that I hire, my job is to make them the best chef possible, to give them every resource possible, to bring them around the most talented people and nurture and encourage their growth and be a guardrail, but not a bumper car, right? Like a bumper car, you can weave out and it goes a little crazy, but you have the rails. With that, I want them to drive down the road, but I don't want them to wreck everything along the way.
Yeah, man, I'm loving what you're dropping on us. And like one line that is just like echoing something I like to say a lot is like the secret to keeping people in your restaurant is trying to push them out of your restaurant with the tools, the knowledge, the resources, everything, the network, introducing them to other people. Yeah. Do everything you can to get that person to have everything they need to leave you, and they'll stay by you forever, right? Yeah. And then you invest in them. Like, okay, I can't get rid of you, so like, what's your vision? Okay, let's do it, And then you've recreated yourself in this individual. You've literally duplicated yourself. Maybe you've even found a better version, which is even a better scenario.
That's the key. Like, my job is to make sure that not only do I give all of my knowledge to somebody who's taking the reins in the restaurant, but I need them to be better than I was. Because the reality is, I say it all the time, I'm good at cooking. I'm never going to be a Michelin star winning chef, but guess what? I don't want to be. Mm-hmm. Like, what I want to do is I want somebody to take a bite of my food and go, oh man, like that reminds me of this time. I want it to hit a soul vibe to them. In Hindi, they call it the Atma. Like the Atma means the soul, right? So like, I want somebody to hit it in their soul. If you think about your last meal, right? Let's flip the script.
My last meal was literally sitting at this table. And I'm thinking to myself, like I said to you, like I was thinking about the place in Thailand, the Indian food place, that like it literally did that for me. It brought me to a different place. It wasn't India, but it was closer to India than I am now. Sorry.
Yeah,
what were you going to say?
That's perfectly said. Like, so that effect when it triggers a memory is called so Dr. Prevost did it. It's called the Madeline effect. And so there was this great psychologist. He was dipping a biscuit in tea one day, and he ate it, and it brought him back to a memory in his childhood. And that's what I try to recreate, right? We want to create the memories where, yeah, it's awesome to look at people who do dehydrated puffed oyster crisps. That shit's really cool, man. If it was my last meal, what do I want to eat? I want to eat the stuff that brings me some sort of level of comfort and triggers this emotional response to me. And to me, that's the food that I always try to put out at Farmer's Dinner. That's the food that I want to put out in any restaurant that I'm going to open. Like, I want somebody to connect on an Atma level, that soul level, right?
I love it, man. I'm loving everything you're dropping on us. Any other people or experiences that are worth bringing to the surface before we start talking about how you actually started your own business?
Sure. It's probably going to be a good segue. I was on another podcast. Can you say that?
There needs to be more restaurant business podcasts. I don't know if it was a restaurant business podcast.
So I was on another podcast recently, and
how dare you?
I know, right? I'm sorry, I'm cheating. So I brought up my old business partner, Chris Vio. And Chris is young still. He's 29. I got a decade on him. But this dude can work circles around any human being ever. And he taught me a lot of Chris and I worked really well together because I think my strengths were some of his weaknesses.
Was this before Farmer's Dinner?
So I hired him for Farmer's Dinner.
Okay.
he was working on another project. Did
you know him before Farmer's Dinner?
So I judged a food competition.
Okay.
So here's the quick 20-second soundbite for it. So I was judging a food competition for a TV show, and he was one of the contestants. And I walked in, and everything he had was laid out perfectly. Like, his knives were perfectly sharp and washed, and like his chef coat was pressed. And I looked at the other judge. I was like, oh, he's gonna win. And she's like, you just know him. And I didn't at the time. He won because his food was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking after, and like we bonded over food and concepts and farms. And that was a huge part of the turning point in my life. And then that business that he was working with, or that restaurant group, he decided he wanted to go a different way. I brought him on a Farmer's Dinner, and it was like, it's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. When you work with somebody who you just get, you're like, whoa, I was thirsty, but like I learned all this stuff. And Chris was definitely one of those people for me.